Peace and blessings, fam. Our Power, Sharif Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share so we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. As always, in the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his mercy and his goodness to the human family. If all the trees upon the earth were pens to write with, and if all the oceans were ink, and then another 7 oceans to add to its supply, the writing would still not be enough to explain the glory of God. For he's the exalted, all powerful, all wise. We confide in no other in our time of need, and we praise no other in our good fortune. He is one. And even if I lived to be 1,000, it would still not be enough to thank God for his many blessings and gifts. We thank God for the Metu Neter, oracle scriptures and writings that came on the continent of Africa thousands of years before any organized religion. We thank God for Moses in the Torah, Jesus in the Gospel, and Muhammad with the Quran. I greet everyone in words of peace. To my Christian family, praise the Lord. To my Muslim family, assalamu alaikum. To my Hebrew Israelite family, shalom. To my Black conscious family, hotep. And to my people in the streets, what's good to you? It all means peace. So once again, this is Brother Sharif with the Hour Power. It's been a long time since I've done a YouTube live. Facebook kind of has that social media outlet on lock, but I figured I'd show some love to my YouTube subscribers and do a specific message for on YouTube Live. And if I get some response or some messages, I'll try to do more YouTube lives if my viewers and whoever requests it, but only if you request it. So for those who don't know, I do work in the mental health field. I'm a child therapist, a counselor, and a mentor in the community here in Pennsylvania. I've been working and counseling youth and people in the community for many years now. I have youth groups that I work with, and again, been working in the community for many years. So I have a vast amount of experience and a good amount of knowledge about mental health and mental health disorders. Not an expert, just have a lot of experience in the field, and again, that's what I do. So I thought that this message tonight is very much needed, especially within the Black community, because within the Black community, for many different reasons, a lot of our people take mental health as taboo. Some are very reluctant to seek mental health, even though it's very much needed, not just in the Black community. They say that 1 out of every 4 Americans has some kind of mental health disorder. And if I was to do some kind of study, I don't have it in front of me. It is a lot of people on psychotropic drugs or needs to be probably on psychotropic drugs for mental health, even though I'm not no big fan of psychotropic drugs, but that's just the reality of what's going on. But mental health is real. Mental health is real. Anyone that knows me and knows the channel of the Hour Power, what we do and what we produce is specific to the Black community, the Black and brown community. No knock on or no anti anyone else. It's just we need specific and special attention in many different areas of life, because we are neglected and marginalized a lot of times. So what we do on this channel unapologetically is reach out and give messages to specifically to the Black community. So this book here, excuse me, books fell, but this book here I want y'all to get familiar with if you don't know. It's the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, better known as the DSM. Now, this is an older version. This is only 3. We're on the DSM 5, but I don't have that in front of me because it's a big, bulky book that I keep at my office. And this is just more easier to handle. But the content is almost the same. They come out with different diagnosis and mental health diagnosis. Each one, the DSM comes out about every 5 to 10 years. And again, we're on the DSM 5. This is just an example. This is the DSM 3. If you have children, grandchildren, youth in the school system, you want to be familiar with this book. Again, if you have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews in the school system, you want to be familiar with this book because, especially if your loved ones, youth, are having behavior problems in the school system, they're going to go right to this book and tag them with ADHD, ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, and then a pill may follow. So they're not going to give you a verse from Psalms in the Bible. They're not going to give you a surah from the Quran, which means a chapter. None of that. This is the Bible of mental counselor, a therapist, psychologist, or psychiatrist. They're going to refer to this same book, and I'm not saying that they're not correct because it's a lot of true things in here. And what we're about to talk about tonight is one of them. It's just I'm not no fan of labeling 5, 6, 7, 8 year old children with no ADHD, especially when the founder of ADHD, which is a man by the name of Dr. Leon Eisenberg, who died back in 2011 and 2012, he admitted on his deathbed that he made the whole thing up. I'm going to say it one more time. The man who is the father of ADHD, you can look him up, Dr. Leon Eisenberg, Eisenberg, Dr. Leon Eisenberg, a Jew. He is the father of ADHD. On his deathbed back in about 2012, he admitted that he made the whole thing up for a pharmaceutical and financial gain. CNN didn't post it. Fox News didn't post it. They said that he was senile and didn't know what he was talking about. No, he knew very well what he was talking about. It is plenty people, famous and unknown, who have made deathbed confessions and they knew exactly what they were saying. So this is a raging debate. It's not my topic tonight, but I'm just telling you how important it is for you to have this book, the DSM, and we're on the DSM 5 now. And I just believe that with discipline, consistency, healthy diet, and a healthy environment, this will decrease, if not erase, this supposed ADHD, which stands for attention hyperactivity disorder. But with me having a vast amount of experience with working with youth in the school system, when I was in North Carolina, I had a caseload of 100 children, and mostly black and Latino boys, some girls. Almost out of those 100, I'm going to say 95 to 98% of them didn't have an active father in their life. I'm going to say that again. And still now, today, I do mobile therapy now. That's the only difference. I'm in Pennsylvania now. I do mobile therapy. It's the same thing. And when I was in North Carolina, I had a larger caseload, and the reason for that is because I did group counseling. I would have 5 and 6 children at a time. Now I just work with children one-on-one. They call it mobile therapy. I can go to their home, to the school, community center, daycare, wherever. But it's the same thing. Almost all the children that I have, they don't have an active father in their life, which to me means that the real definition of ADHD is ain't no daddy home disorder. I'm going to say it again. The real definition for ADHD is ain't no daddy home disorder. That dad is there to give that discipline, that what we need, what these children need. I think that'll all but eradicate this supposed ADHD. But that's not my topic tonight. My topic tonight is a very serious issue in mental health, new mental health diagnosis that the mental health field is studying. They're doing a lot of research on it, and they're trying to get it as an official diagnosis. Excuse me a second. The mental health field, if you see the caption that I have, They're trying to get this as a new diagnosis because it's not in the DSM-5, even though mental health professionals recognize it as a diagnosable mental health issue, and it's serious. It's called complex PTSD. Complex PTSD. For those who don't know, PTSD stands for post traumatic stress disorder. It's a very serious and debilitating mental health disease. You hear it synonymous and connected to those who may have been in wars, from the seeing constant murder and gunshots and people injured. You'll hear, war veterans say, I got to go see my counselor or my therapist or my psychologist or whatever. I suffer from PTSD. It's real. It's real. And PTSD is basically a singular traumatic event in one's life that has, long lasting negative or detrimental side effects to it. A car accident, a fire, a motorcycle accident, being in a war. Those are typical symptoms or how someone suffers from PTSD, a singular traumatic event in one's life. But now, again, mental health professionals are looking at an extension, so to speak, of PTSD called complex PTSD. In complex PTSD, the definition of it is, even though it's not in the DSM-5, this is the 3, but they're all about the same, just a couple extra diagnoses or whatever. And I'm just giving you an example. This is the 3, but we're on the 5. The definition of complex PTSD, because I just gave you the definition of the regular PTSD, is trauma of extreme violence or stress over an extended period of time. It repeatedly occurred. People at risk are those who are domestic violence victims, child sexual abuse, war, and sex trafficking. So that is the definition, and those who are most at risk for this new mental health diagnosis called complex PTSD. Remember, regular, so to speak, PTSD is a singular traumatic event in one's life, like a car accident, a motorcycle accident, or a fire or war. But complex PTSD is trauma of extreme violence or stress over an extended period of time. It repeatedly occurred, and people who are most at risk are domestic violence victims, child sexual abuse, war, and sex trafficking. Anyone who has followed the Hour of Power on my Facebook or here on YouTube knows that the Hour of Power with yours truly has covered most of them topics very deep and extensively. We've talked about domestic violence. I've referred and referenced this book, a book that I believe is a much must read, especially for our people. Violence in the Lives of Black Women, Battered Black and Blue. Violence in the Lives of Black Women, Battered Black and Blue. It talks about domestic violence in the lives of Black women, child sexual abuse, how a lot of our women were sexually assaulted, raped, and abused as early as 8 years old. As early as 8 years old. It talks about, through statistics and study in this book, Violence in the Lives of Black Women, how a lot of our sisters have been sexually abused, raped, and assaulted as early as 8 years old, if not younger. I've talked to plenty of sisters said they were sexually abused at 5 and 6 years old, fingered, fondled, penetrated, forced oral sex, anal sex, the whole dirty nine. My God, my God. So no wonder so many of our sisters are so damaged when they, develop into their adult life, constantly crying. Some people say they're difficult to deal with, very emotional, very erratic, sometimes irrational. But some of us not knowing or just not compassionate enough, starts labeling our sisters. I can't deal with black women, or she's this and she's that. But yeah, do you know what she's been through? If she's been sexually abused or raped at 8 years old and didn't get any kind of counseling or therapy, and still holding on to that hurt and trauma, man, no wonder, no wonder. And I believe T.D. Jakes did his own documentary called "Women That Aren't Loose," and he talked about how 1 out of every 4 black women have been physically or sexually abused at some point in their life. 1 out of every 4, and this oftentimes again happens before the age of 18. So a lot of our sisters, including our brothers, have been through a lot. I'm going to say it again, including our brothers. This is one of the reasons why so many black men are so volatile, so violent, so to speak, is because they're holding on to the same hurt, pain, and trauma that a lot of our sisters are holding on to. But the big difference is black women and women in general, no matter their race or ethnic background, women are more prone to express their feelings and trauma that they have went through than men are, no matter the race. But it seems to be even more taboo with black men, and a lot of it is understandable because of our history in this country. But a lot of black men will not talk about what has happened to them. So our sister Carolyn West, she has this wonderful and powerful book called Violence in the Lives of Black Women. I would implore our sister to come out with a book and for the brothers called Violence in the Lives of Black Men, because a lot of black men have been sexually abused and raped. Some are coming out with it. Like the man, I think his name is Terry Crews. He's been real public about the sexual abuse he has suffered. Tyler Perry, even though I don't agree with some of the buffooning and clowning movies that he comes out with in sitcoms. I mean, whatever. It's his life. It's his money. But he's been public about what he's went through. But by and large, a lot of our brothers keep this a secret, which in turn causes them to be very volatile and even violent because they're holding in a lot of pain. So I say to my brothers, if this has happened to you, please get some help. Please get some help. Don't be ashamed to speak about it. You are the victim. It doesn't take nothing away from your manhood because you are or you were a victim. Get some help. Talk to someone about what you've been through because pressure bursts pipes. Pressure bursts pipes. So if you're around your girlfriend, your family, or your children, all that hurt that you have been through, it's going to manifest itself one way or another. So just the same reason and scenario how I posed about how a lot of us would say, man, I can't deal with black women. They're so volatile. They're so irrational, and on and on and on. Do you know what they've been through? Do you know what they've been through? And the same with brothers. And I'm not giving no excuse for violence, for someone being explosive, especially if it's at the expense of somewhere else. But this is coming from somewhere. So, brothers, for the love of God, please get some help. It's not a hit on your manhood. If anything, it shows how much of a man that you are because you are brave enough to do something about a traumatic event in your life. So you don't in turn become a victimizer or victimize someone else or mistreat someone else or become abusive to your wife, your girlfriend, and God forbid your children because of some pain that you went through. They should not be subjected to that kind of abuse because of something you went through, especially if you can get some help. So, finishing out, again, we're talking about complex PTSD, not regular PTSD, which is a singular traumatic event like a fire, a car accident, or motorcycle accident. The new diagnosis now is complex PTSD, and it's not in the new DSM, but mental health professionals are recognizing it as a diagnosable disease. But I'm here to tell you that it's real, and especially real in our lives. We have been through a whole lot. We have been victimized ever since we have come to this country and before. The long ride over here, as we know, is the Middle Passage, is beyond human comprehension. So this diagnosis called complex PTSD, it's new in the mental health field, but it's not new to us because again it says trauma of extreme violence or stress. Stop right there. If you know anything about what happened to us on the Middle Passage, meaning Africans being stolen out of Africa, put on slave ships that could only hold 1 to 200, and they had 500 and 600 of us packed on there, stacked on top of each other like pancakes, brothers and sisters vomiting, urinating, defecating on each other, chained to each other. You may be chained to someone who was sick, a sister on their menstrual cycle, and someone may expire right next to you for days and weeks, and they're just laying there, meaning pass away. And their corpses lay, and they're chained to you. Can you imagine that? Extreme trauma, violence, and stress. We're talking about complex PTSD for over an extended period of time. The Middle Passage wasn't 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, a week. This was weeks that we suffered this unspeakable trauma. It repeatedly occurred. People at risk are domestic violence, child sexual abuse, war, and sex trafficking. We were being sex trafficked. We were being exploited on the plantation, on the boat, on the way over here. Men, women, children. No one was safe. No one was safe. The men, women, children, grandmoms, granddads, men were being raped in front of their wives, wives being raped in front of their husbands, gang raped. Complex PTSD has been there for us. They're just now labeling it on the mental health books. Now I'm gonna give you some symptoms of complex PTSD, then I'll be done. Some symptoms are feelings of shame or guilt, thinking that this is your fault, whatever you have been through, whether it's domestic violence, child sexual abuse, war, or sex trafficking. Feelings of shame or guilt. Can't control emotions. We already talked about that specifically with black women. Sometimes they have a huge range of emotions, uncontrollably crying, angry. A lot of times it's rooted in some trauma that they have suffered, most likely sexual abuse. That's where a lot of it comes from. So can't control emotions. Periods of losing attention, better known as disassociation. Periods of losing attention, like an out of mind experience, like an out of mind experience where they're totally disconnected from reality. That's called disassociation. The physical symptoms are headaches, dizziness, chest pains, and stomach aches. Headaches, dizziness, chest pains, and stomach aches. Seems like it won't go away. Symptoms of complex PTSD. Cutting oneself off from family and friends for no rational reason. Now, some of us have some crazy ass family. I'm one of them. I ain't talking about them. Anyone who is toxic in your life, I don't care who it is, they need to go. With the exception of maybe your mother, and even with that, you may have to deal with her with a long handled spoon, but you don't need no one in your life that is toxic, always being negative and dragging you down. They need to go. I'm talking about irrationally, for no reason, just cutting someone off out of your life. That may be a sign or a symptom of complex PTSD. Difficulty sustaining healthy relationships. That's also a side effect of what they call borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder. Just difficulty having healthy relationships with people. One minute everything is cool, and the next, bam, they just one person after another, no matter who they deal with, it just don't seem to work. It's always some kind of issue. Suicidal thoughts, which is connected with a lot of other mental health disorders, but constantly having suicidal thoughts. You definitely want to try to get someone some help if that's going on. Risky behavior such as drug and alcohol abuse. All of us have someone in our family that is suffering from drug and alcohol abuse. The root of it may be complex PTSD. You got to get to the root of the problem. Flashbacks, constantly having flashbacks of what caused them the trauma in the first place. It could be a person, it could be smelling something, it could be going down a certain street, it could be a song, anything that triggers or reminds them of what actually or is the origin of them being traumatized. An increased heart rate, which kind of goes back to physical symptoms. That we mentioned earlier with headaches. So those are the symptoms of complex PTSD. Again, feelings of shame or guilt, can't control emotions, periods of losing attention, better known as disassociation, headaches, dizziness, chest pains, stomach aches, increased heart rate, cutting oneself off from family or friends with no rational reason or for no rational reason, suicidal thoughts, risky behaviors such as drug and alcohol abuse, and flashbacks. Those are the symptoms and signs of PTSD. The solution to this is to get some help from a trained mental health professional, a counselor, a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or a trusted person in the community. That's the least you should do. Healthy diet, healthy exercise, and be around people who have your best interest and who is going to be a positive influence in your life. Always remember this if you don't remember anything else. Healthy people make other people healthy, and sick people make other people sick. Always remember that from the hour of power. If you don't remember anything else, healthy people make other people healthy, and sick people make other people sick. You will not get better or be on the path to healing if you are suffering from complex PTSD or any other mental health disorder if you constantly surround yourself with toxic, negative people, because who you surround yourself with can determine whether you're on the path of recovery or on a path of destruction. Healthy people make other people healthy, and sick people make other people sick. Someone's always being negative, dragging you down, just pouring negative energy and vibes into you, and that's who you're getting your energy from. It is going to be very difficult for you to heal because they're always going to be dragging you down and pouring that negativity into you. You need someone who's going to be positive. Exercise, deep breathing, eat properly, and go get some help. Some help. These are the keys and the solutions to healing and being on the path of recovery. And of course, number one is trusting, believing, and having a healthy relationship with He who created you, which is the Most High and one and only God. And when I say that to you, I'm talking to myself. I'm going through a lot myself. And one thing I'm doing on top of going to see a counselor myself, I got to schedule that, is trusting and reaching out to the Most High and to ask Him to pass this cup of suffering, to have mercy upon me, and to heal me. So that's number one on top of the other things that I have recommended. So this is called complex PTSD, the new diagnosis. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Hour of Power, Sharif Hamid. Share this message with others if you find it beneficial. Send me a message. Let me know what you think. Stay in contact and stay in tune. And hopefully I will do more YouTube live videos. Thank you for listening. I'll leave you in peace as I came. Assalamu alaikum. Now I have to see how to sign off here.